Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Booze Brothers. So, this is a podcast where we try to have very honest, no fluff conversations about our experiences of quitting alcohol. And with me, as always, is my brother Matt. Hello, Matt.
Good morning, Mark. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Good.
we've got another Sunday morning session, which I think we both prefer to the late night midweek ones.
Yeah. It's definitely more energy on the Sunday mornings than the late night ones.
Couple of old farts like us.
I know. The other day, way past bedtime.
Exactly, exactly. So, right. So we wanted to have a conversation today about, what was it that actually made the both of us finally decide to quit drinking? And yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because most people, I think, at some point or another, not most people, but quite a lot of people, normally after a massive hangover, will consider the prospect of quitting alcohol. And it's really interesting. I met a guy this week actually who I was doing a little bit of sort of coaching with on some other things, and he um, let it kind of slip, not slip, but it broke into the conversation that he was struggling a little bit with the effects of alcohol. And it was really fascinating because if you've listened to previous episodes where we talk about the tiers of drinking, like the tier one drinker, the tier two drinker, and the tier three drinker, he was very much in that sort of middle tier where I think a lot of people are, where they wouldn't consider themselves to probably wouldn't even consider themselves to have an alcohol problem, but definitely drink too much. And I suppose the drinking too much, it's a pernicious thing. It sort of evolves, and before you know it, all of a sudden it's gone from maybe once a month to suddenly every weekend I feel like I'm drinking too much. And what he said that was the tipping point for him, and this happened to me too, so this is kind of quite interesting, was that he suddenly noticed that Sundays was a day where he was drinking too much, and he started to not book things in for a Monday morning. So he knew, because he knew that he would have a bit of a hangover. We talked about that anxiety impact when you, which I definitely got, it definitely impacted me. I'm not sure it affected you quite as much, Matt, but it definitely got me
Yeah,
where in the wake of a hangover, because I felt like my senses were dulled, the synapses just weren't firing properly, the brain cells weren't working. They don't work that great as it is, so never mind with with a hangover. That gave me that sort of fear and anxiety because I felt like I couldn't necessarily connect the dots, and in a pressured situation, that always made me feel more anxious than I needed to. And certainly that was the impact with him. And what was really interesting about that conversation was, of course, I really leaned into that because I said, well, obviously I quit drinking. And one of the main reasons that I stopped was because there I was at, the age of 48 at the time, trying to do all the right things, trying to eat healthily, trying to exercise, I started to meditate so that I could sort of calm my brain because I'm somebody where my brain tends to be on, quite sort of it's on full pelt. And so I was doing all these things which I thought were going to be, really good for me. But in contrast to all that, I was getting hammered on a Saturday night and drinking too much on a Sunday. So it was the thing that, and I'll get into it in a minute because I want to sort of hand over to you and talk
yeah,
specifically about why that made me stop. But he was coming at it from the, well, I don't know if I want to stop completely, but I definitely want to start to manage my drinking a bit more. And I just thought, oh yeah, I know the stuff. I know where you're at with this. We all go through that, don't we? Where we think, well, I don't think I need to quit. And I just actually, this is a fascinating topic because I sort of wonder whether I almost needed to say to him, you do need to quit. I'm afraid
yeah.
you do. This isn't going to get any better.
Hmm.
This Once you get to that stage where it's really starting to impact things, you're moving meetings, you're feeling that it's starting to seep into areas of your life that are sort of preventing you from holding you back. I mean, the conversation I was having with him was about the performance of his business, which is suffering. and you go, I can connect those dots for you. One of the biggest things you could do to solve the problems in your business would be to quit drinking. So I won't go, I've talked a lot already, so I'll sort of leave that as a bit of an opener for you, Matt, to kind of pick up. But we'll sort of work our way up to this, and yeah, very interesting. And I know what my thoughts on it. Be interested to sort of hear what you
Yeah, no,
your
absolutely. So why we quit? It's a big topic of discussion. I think it's pretty straightforward for me, to be honest. I my life was sort of turning into a bit of a car crash, really. I knew my drinking was out of control. I also had a drug problem that ended before the alcohol, but we concentrate on alcohol here, and for me it just I knew I was drinking at levels that weren't normal, and I I've been thinking about it for a while. I think, like lots of people do, like the person you've just described, I think we go through that. Let's start typing into Google, is, are 2 bottles of wine too many? What does the average person drink? All these sort of things. Is red wine good for you? Looking for some glimmer of hope, out there, and you realize that really that you're just not, it's got out of control, and for me that's what had happened. And and then my life sort of had a real for me a car crash moment, which was the rock bottom moment, which I go into great detail in my book, Man Gets Sober. So if you want to read the full story, full bore, no corners cut, then I would recommend buy the book, not just for that, but for many, many other reasons. But for me, I documented quite sort of in depth, which was I essentially got drunk in a day at the daytime on a Friday, and I'd organised drinks in the evening with some colleagues, and I turned up drunk, and it was the first time, I think, that I became acutely aware that what I'd done was wrong, and I felt I had this just intense feeling of guilt, of just, what the fuck are you doing? What have you done? No one else has had a drink, and you're turning up at 6 o'clock in the evening drunk, consciously drunk. So not, how can I put it? Not sort of falling over the tables and everything, but but really, really, like, deeply ingrained drunk. I can't explain it, but it was
yeah,
just
I know what
hitting
you
me,
said.
this feeling of alcohol that just, like, oh my God, I've totally lost the plot here. I absolutely let myself go here, and it was apparent. And then I knocked a beer over myself, and that just increased this feeling of guilt and hate, and I couldn't believe that I'd done it. And then, the icing on the cake, which I obviously mentioned and put down, really is, thank God it happened in some ways, but I forgot to pick up my children from school, and that was just the end of it, really. That was, that cemented it. I think I was very lucky in ways. I had a moment of clarity in all the chaos, and it was just so clear to me that was that. I could not go on. That it just, there were no more excuses. There was no to me, there was no way I could sit there and go, that was acceptable. That was a normal way to live your life. It just wasn't. And even though I hadn't upset anyone, no one had died, no one had been insulted, the children got picked up 15 minutes late. It just meant so much to me what had happened. And it kind of was, as I say, and I say in the book, it was actually a relief. It was actually, all of a sudden, a weight off my shoulders, because all of a sudden I knew it was going to stop. I knew that it couldn't go on, and that that was that. And that was, funnily enough, just over 5 years ago, and I haven't touched a drink or drug since then. And yeah.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because what you've just described, and just listening to it again, it's really terrifying. I can feel it viscerally, and I imagine myself being in that bar and thinking, I'm fucking drunk. And just the hopelessness of it, the fear, the kind of I'm when fear presents itself, it becomes terrifying when you know there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And that would
Yeah.
have been like for you because you are hammered and there's no way out of that. You can't, and it makes me feel really sort of terrified just thinking about the reality of it, which is really interesting, is that not everybody has that rock bottom moment. And
No.
when people don't have it, I think their drinking can continue for maybe longer. If you hadn't had that day, is
Yeah.
there a chance that you continue drinking for?
I think about that. I do think about that. And I think maybe that I would have carried on. I think that I was drinking at levels that would have caused other problems. So probably in my relationship with my wife, I think it would have become even, it would have become very complicated. Um, Funnily enough, it wasn't that complicated. I wasn't in a relationship where, she'd been screaming at me, telling me to stop drinking, that I was completely out of control. She pulled me up on it. But that's a very difficult thing to do. And I think that's a whole other discussion, which is how do you talk to someone who has a drinking problem? Because, you can so easily hit their fuck it switch, as I call it, which is, why are you having another drink? That can just rile someone who's, it's like, what do you mean, who are you to tell me, that I can't have another drink? But so that, well, there wasn't really much of that, to be honest. It just was, you know, you, I'm sorry, you fucking know, to anybody listening, to anyone watching, it's got out of control. It's wrong. You just look at the people around you and you go, no one else I know is, or not that I think I know,
The
is
thing.
reaching for another bottle of wine on a Monday evening, uh, and think I'm probably going to do it again on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and you know, you just know. Yeah.
One of the things that you say in your book, which I really like actually, was you said that you asked the question, could my life be better if I wasn't drinking? Not will it be better, but could, like, is there a
Yeah.
possibility that this improves if I stop drinking? And that was a question that I asked this chap that we spoke to. And the thing that's interesting about the rock bottom moment that you describe in your book is, yeah, it was kind of a coming together of everything. And my view is that if that hadn't happened, you might not have quit maybe on that day, but I think you were headed in that direction. It was coming to a head, and I think it does come to a head.
Yeah.
But what I would say is that everybody has mini rock bottom moments. Like so for me, I quit in the end because I was just utterly, utterly exhausted. I was so tired and had a big stressful business to run. The business I felt had potential, but it wasn't meeting its potential, mainly because I don't think I was giving it the attention it needed. And one of the reasons I wasn't giving it the attention that it needed was because I was drinking too much. So it was all wrapped up in that. I was exhausted, mentally, physically. I'd be working my balls off all week, and then I would get to the weekend and I wouldn't really be sleeping at the weekends. Like the point where I could maybe, replenish and rejuvenate. I was going, my thing would be the kids and everybody would go to bed by about 11 o'clock on a Friday, and that was my time. I would then start drink, I would drink between sort of then and maybe sometimes 2, 3 in the morning. I'd just put a movie on and it was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
at the
doing it
time,
with you.
and at the time I thought it was bliss. I thought it was, oh my God, the noise has stopped. Everybody's leaving me alone. The
Yeah,
world
yeah,
leave me alone now. And one of the things that resonated with this guy and also with me is that I knew that when I stopped drinking, the world comes back, the hassle comes
yeah.
back. And I never wanted that to come back. And so
Mm,
that's why I carried on. But I had mini rock bottom moments. So one of the things that was happening to me, I was living in America at the time, and I was coaching football, soccer, as they call it in the States. And I was part of a big youth soccer club. It's one of the things I'm most proud of in my life, actually. It was such a force for good because it was all about, getting children out off their Xboxes and getting them outside of all ages and of all, abilities. It was just such a wholesome, great, fantastic thing. And teaching, actually, I think is one of the most pleasurable things you can do. I loved
mm.
teaching children how to play football. But there were occasions where on a Saturday morning or a Sunday, if we had like an early game or if we had an early practice, I would be talking to these kids or the parents, conscious that my breath probably smelled of alcohol. And
Mm.
it would fucking terrify me. I would feel horrified at the thought that, so I would sort of be, so you have these like mini rock bottom
Yeah,
moments that sort of happened, like another occasion where I had a call in the morning and it was the day after a like a bank holiday Monday, like a public holiday Monday, and I had it really early with one of my. He was our VP of sales in the States, and we had a big deal happening, and we needed to get on a call early. And of course, I'd been hammered the night before, so when I got on that call, I was definitely still drunk. I
mm.
was, and I knew it. And all I was doing during that call was trying to hide the fact that I was hungover. And this is a guy that works for me. This is a guy that looks to me for leadership, that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
look to me for guidance. And I'm not really fun. And so, there's these little moments that add up. And I think, my one of the great things about this, and we should maybe move to that, is that the thing that is it's so painful, it's so difficult to work your way through it. But the great thing is when you do stop, it is so fucking good. It is such a relief. And it is like when we've talked about the benefits, just the things that change and the stress that this conversation is stressful for me because it reminds me of what it was like.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what makes it so great when you stop.
Yeah, it just it just goes away. It just all I'm not saying all your problems go away because everyone has problems. You will have good days, bad days, etc. But everything becomes so much more manageable. What you just described, that situation about work, and let's be honest, we work is important, right? Whether you make a lot of money or not, I don't care. In fact, our father said to me one time, I don't care what you do in life, you go to work. I don't care if you work in a supermarket, I don't care if you're a ski instructor, I don't care if you're in business, whatever you do, you get up and go to work. And I fundamentally totally agree with believe with him, and I'd say that to my children too. So work is a big thing, and your ability to just work, I'm not saying be the top of your game or whatever you want to do, but even anything is massively impacted by alcohol. And people don't think about that, but it is, you now. I don't even think about it. And we've been here before, but the Monday morning thing, if I have to do something on a weekend, not that I need to generally, but if I do, it's not a problem. If I get, I used to get times where it'd be like it could be a Tuesday morning, a Wednesday morning, because I was drinking most nights. I get a phone call on my phone at like 9:30 in the morning. I'd see the number and I'd be shitting myself about answering the call. I'd be like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? Do I answer? I don't want to speak to this person. I'm not in the right frame of mind. I'm not. Now it's just like I just answer the call. It doesn't,
That,
I
that,
don't,
that is the
it becomes
anxiety.
so simple.
Yeah, that is the anxiety
Mm.
that I mentioned. It's exactly that. And imagine if you've got to give a big presentation and you're going to be put on the spot and you're asked for, pressure questions. if you've been drinking, it makes it 10 times harder, and the reverse
Yeah.
is true.
You were running your own business, so the kind of the you know the ball stopped with you, if you like,
Yeah,
even
yeah,
harder.
and you know, I've said this before, but when I did stop, the business grew in a way that it never would have grown. It was an absolute pleasure. It was one of the most fulfilling, rewarding periods of my life professionally, because I managed to build a business that we took care of people. The culture was just an amazing culture. Everybody looked after everybody. We were kind to people. It was a good business. It was a business I was really proud of on
Yeah,
every single level. And thank fuck I stopped drinking, because I never would have got that. And one of the things I just want to leave on, because we're always conscious of time, we tend to run these too long. But
we
the,
do.
the last point is that phrase where, drinking is stealing joy from the following day. You're borrowing joy from the following day. And I see that now so clearly, how when people drink, they look forward to the drinking because they're going to be upbeat and happy, and they're going to have a good time. I was out last night at a mate's birthday party. Everybody's drinking. They're drinking a load. The volume goes up. I still had a great time. I was there, had a fantastic time. We left at probably we weren't the first to leave, but we didn't stay really, really late. The thing is, though, you wake up the next day. I've already had a sort of a text from the guy whose birthday it was. He feels terrible. You know, he's still in bed. Today will be a sorry tale for all of them. Whereas for
Mm.
me, got plans. We're going out. We're going for a walk. We're going to have coffee in town. I'm really looking
Doing
forward to
this.
it. Again,
We're doing this.
we're doing this. We're doing this. Doing this, and the joy is constant. I mean, look, like you said, still problems in life, etc., etc. But the happiness and the excitement, you get that all the time. And it's still very weird to me that we live in a society where we've normalized this process of, okay, let's get drunk so we feel happy and we feel good, and there's no fucking getting away from the fact the only reason people drink is for the alcohol, to make themselves feel, drunk. I'm going to do that at the cost of my ability to function as a normal person. And once you do quit, all of that goes away, as we've said. So, yeah, look, I don't know whether we've answered the question, why did we quit? But I think, in summary, for me, it was just it got to the point where I was fat, I was financially struggling, I was mentally on the floor, I was exhausted because I wasn't sleeping at weekends because I was drinking, and you don't sleep properly when you drink. And I tried a few times, and in the end, I just thought, you know what, I'm fucking doing it. And I said to myself, I just want to see what the world looks like when you take alcohol out of it. That I'm
Yeah.
intrigued to know. And when I did take alcohol away, it I changed, and it was, everything changed for the better. So that was my reason. And I know you had the rock bottom moment, Matt,
Yeah.
but it was coming. And I suppose for anybody listening to this, don't wait necessarily for your rock bottom moment. Give it a go. Give it a try. Just do
Yeah.
it. Just stop putting the alcohol in your mouth. As Kevin O'Hara always says, just stop
Yeah.
putting the alcohol in your mouth and feel the energy come back. Feel the color return to your cheeks. Feel the sort of clarity of thought. And there's a lot of science now, a lot of research to back all of this up. But you do, there's this sort of, life is pretty short.
Mm.
We get one life, and why don't you try it on for size and see what it all looks like without this thing that we most of us do, which is drinking alcohol.
100% agree. And just one quick final thing from me is, this could have gone two ways. In fact, funnily enough, one of the guys who I was with on that fateful day, he, I don't know why we got onto it, how we got onto it, but we got onto the subject of that day. And he laughed and he said, "Oh God." He said, yeah, that I remember that day. He was going, that was the day you got hammered and forgot to pick up your kids. And to him, it was funny. And I kind of think about that now. And I think, well, what if I thought it was funny? Would I still be alive today? Would I have just kept on, So where I'm going with that is, it's about you. Ask yourself the question. Don't compare yourself to others. Do you really feel that you're drinking too much? Do you, in your heart of hearts, do you know? Because if you do, then don't wait, or start educating yourself. Keep watching what we do. Look at other people. There's plenty of other people out there. Craig Beck, Kevin O'Hara, as you've mentioned, these guys will help too. And don't think a life without alcohol is boring, because it really isn't. Honestly, on the contrary, in fact, it makes you much more interesting, and things become much more interesting. So yeah, lots of reasons why we quit, but hopefully ours are clear now, and hopefully that helps you to make yours clear in your mind too.
Perfect. All right. I think we'll leave it there. So thanks everybody for listening. We'd appreciate comments, likes, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And yeah, until the next time, it's bye from me. See you next time.
See you next time. Bye bye.
Cheers, guys.